The main news is about ICE agents at airports. I know the headline is because TSA agents are not being paid, and so ICE agents are there helping to facilitate to crowd control. I think it goes so much deeper than what we're seeing. ICE agents are already routinely getting the travel lists from the TSA agents, right? Who's traveling? Does anybody have removal order? And if they do, ICE agents can already go and pick up people at the domestic airports. This happened even far before the Trump administration. CBP officers routinely call ICE agents to pick people up. I've had clients myself that we had to prepare everything, and we know they were going to get picked up because they have an arrest warrant. They fly into the country, and then CBP officer at the international airports call the ICE agents. We talk about it, prepare it. It's like, sorry, this client already has a green card. I know there was a mix-up. Please let them in. We explain. We go to for inspection, and it comes in. So the customs officer at international airports have been calling ICE agents. It is scary. It is concerning, especially for many people who are not citizens. And the reason is because we see green card holders, people who are on visas, student visas, work permits. We have seen them get harassed and detained by ICE agents unlawfully, right? People who have just minor traffic violations 10 plus years ago. That is not a deportable, removable offense under any law. Yet the ICE last year sent out tens of thousands of messages saying all of their visas have been canceled. What we've seen in the past few months of ICE agents, whether they're not trained, whether they are hired incorrectly, whether they are themselves traumatized and they're reacting in force. Basically, this entire institution of ICE and detaining people is causing rupture throughout society. And now being visibly in the airport is magnifying that. And the question we're posing is, are they going to stay visible? Are they going to continue to enhance the domestic airports? Are they going to continue to be in domestic airports? Are they going to go into public schools, places of worship, hospitals, right? Every single one of these public institutions run by the state, funded by the federal government in many situations, they get lists, they get patient names, they get birth dates. USCIS is freezing their funding, lowering the number of people they're hiring. CBP has always been hiring, but they can never hire enough. Customs border agents, but all the funding went to ICE, and ICE has hired so many people and rapidly with big bonuses. What are they going to do afterwards, right? Even if a change in administration, what are they going to do? One theory is work site enforcement is going to ramp up significantly. I'm part of the group that believes that. Work site enforcement, I-9 audits has historically been low. They have always wanted to ramp it up, going after medium to small businesses on top of the big businesses that have a lot of immigrant populations. And so you're attacking small business owners. Let's motivate Congress to solve it, and we can solve it right then and now. There's a lack of political will to solve the ICE problem, a lack of political will and ownership to solve this problem. And so now our democracy is stuck in Congress. And so the patchwork solution is to send in ICE agents. And this has been ongoing and is always part of the MO, right? This very big theatrics going from city to city, causing chaos, essentially making it as miserable as it's humanly possible for somebody who doesn't have status to be here. And not just people without status, people who, even have work permits or people who are in the process of getting green cards, right? I have so many clients who have green cards who've decided to leave. Unspoken intended effect, but the intended effect nonetheless throughout this past administration, and what we're seeing, and this goes back to what my other friend said, in the past 10 years, there has been so many undocumented people who have crossed the border illegally, and it spiked during COVID times. You cannot feasibly send law enforcement to get them and to get them out. Right? The existing infrastructure, the legal system, the immigration system, everything that's in place makes that absolutely prohibitively cost ineffective, and it will tank the US. So that is not possible within the confines of their prerogative, within the confines of their authority. Make it so uncomfortable that people leave on their own volition. That is the only way to get rid of people who have crossed the border illegally, who are undocumented. Yes, there's going to be plenty of collateral damage. They understand that. but this is the only way. And that's a theory that many people are saying, right? So if that it holds true, and if you agree with that, and you see what they're doing, and you see a pattern emerge, then the only conclusion you can come to is that it's going to get worse. You cannot stay in and work in the U.S. anymore. That's potentially the next step, right? Adjustment of status applications. You're trying to get a green card, significantly harder because now public charge is in place. Trying to become a citizen becomes much more difficult. Even if you become a citizen, will denaturalize you if they want to, making the entire environment of the immigrant journey much more difficult. It's absolutely insane, but that is the prospect. And so the question that was posed is ICE even going to leave the airports? And so many people who have work permits, who need to travel the country to fix things, to their engineers, they need to do all this stuff. If you have status, if you have work authorization, and you're traveling domestically, definitely prepare so you can show that. I mean, ICE agents right now, primarily at these domestic airports, crowd control, trying not to get harmed. They, of course, want to catch people who have deportation orders or in removal proceedings, or people who miss their ICE appointments. I think everybody should definitely, if you are in a situation where you might have a deportation order, if you had a case that was closed, know that it can be reopened at any time. If you had USCIS deny your case and you're in the country unlawfully, know that an NTA might be issued and therefore you might have a removal proceeding against you. If you're on DACA, what should you do? If you are on work authorization, what should you do? So the first thing is make sure you don't have a removal proceeding, deportation order, a nice check-in. Any of those are not great to have when you're traveling. And then carry your authorizations with you, right? We're talking about the work permits. We're talking about the original 797 approval notice from USCIS, right? Those are critical. If your work permit hasn't been approved yet, you're just renewing it, and you don't have work authorization, and you're traveling, and the office they ask you if you're working, that's not a good look, right? So prepare your documents with you when you are on official business, and always have your emergency contact prepared if you are detained and you need to get bailed out, right? There are people with mandatory detention, and that way, I mean, even if you have an emergency contact, you're only letting them know, like, help. But if you are on DACA or if you're on work authorization, you should be able to get bailed out.
Is it safe to travel on DACA right now, domestically?
Less and less so. Legally, you are able to. And so when you do travel, have your work authorization with you, have your approval notice with you, have your family on standby. Know that there might be TSA agents that's passing your information to ICE. You might see them, you might bump into them. They are not there to detain people who have valid DACA status, but they always have the authority to do that if they want to, right? And I know a lot of people who might be hearing this very first time, they might be shocked, like, no, I have DACA status, I'm legal. To ICE, DACA just means a deferred deportation. So if they don't like you, if you're obstructing their justice, if you're obstructing you just violated your status in a way. Last night, debating this topic, where is our country going, right? And the trend and the plot seems to be, it's getting worse and worse. ICE is getting stronger and stronger with more and more authority, going from city to city, institution to institution. Right now it is the airport that has a problem. What's the next problem? What if the fire department has a problem in different states? What if FEMA has a problem where they need to send disaster relief? Okay, we don't have enough funding, we don't have enough support for disaster relief. Let's send the ICE agents. And so now, if you're trying to file claims, oh, well, the ICE agent's going to show up to do your interview. Who's there to solve it? There's a lot of solutions, but the solution that they choose is to send in the ICE agents. The theory is because they want to make it as uncomfortable as humanly possible so that everyone will leave the United States. And why do they want so many people to leave the United States? Again, there's a lot of theories. Potentially that will improve the housing crisis. Potentially that will allow for more room for legal immigrants to come. Potentially that will just solve other types of problems. Or straight up because they score political points. But if it's just because one party can score some political points and or both party fighting over immigration can score them both points, that's another thing to think about, right? This is the world we're living in. A lot of undocumented people came in the past 10 years. The government doesn't have enough strength and power and ability to get them out. So maybe the only solution is just funding ICE to make it so scary so that people live on their own volition. You strip away their ability to get licenses to work as truck drivers. You strip, mom and pop shops to be able to hire 1099 workers because now they're getting audited for every 1099 cash payment. They have to pay, double, triple the amount. So now nobody could get work. Housing becomes more and more expensive. They cannot live. Inflation becomes so unbearable that they decided to leave. Is that the gameplay? I don't know. If ICE agents are at your, parent-teacher conferences, if ICE agents are at your hospitals, if ICE agents are at your travels, if ICE agents are at every single, DMV. And so I'm afraid the answer to the question, when are ICE agents going to leave the airports? The answer has to be, they've always been there and they are not leaving. It's just whether or not they're going to be behind the scenes or in front. And worse yet, where else will they go next? I think that's something that we have to reflect and think about, especially this midterm election.